Hello, everyone. Dr. Eames here. What I'd like to talk to you about this time is personal selling and sales management. Here's the learning objectives for this time. Talk about the importance of personal selling as part of our brand promotion, the activities that salespeople do, the importance of context, in particular to personal selling, and then the process a little bit at the end about how we manage our sales force. First of all, personal selling has changed. There has been traditional selling over time, and things have certainly taken a different sort of perspective today as part of the larger promotional campaigns that we put together. So, as it says here in the past, a sales presentation generally would talk about, open up by saying who you are, of course, and then the company that you represent. And you would talk about the company's history and brand and its accomplishments and so forth. It was very much a focus on me, me, me. Well, that's not where we're at today with promotional campaigns to persuade people to use our products and services. So we have certainly come a long way. That was the traditional approach. Well, we're not giving a report in front of the class. What we're trying to do is get some awareness, some engagement going with our particular consumer segment. So we're going to focus on the client's needs, and that's where the state of marketing promotion is today. Not about talking about ourselves as a company and patting ourselves on the back, although that does fall into public relations, and we can use that tool to do that also as part of the overall promotional strategy. But today's sales, personal selling, selling in general today, it's all about finding out what the consumer needs and what they want, and then trying to take care of that. We use database technology to accomplish this. We use it to keep track of our consumers. We build lists. We can determine who are the most brand loyal, who are our heaviest users. We can use the database technology for all sorts of things. It helps us do our assessments. It helps us put together tools to do assessment, like surveys and so forth, as well. And the process of putting together any sales promotion requires us to do the basics of business, which means environmental scanning, that we look out there and see what the competitors are doing, that we understand international best practices, and that we adopt them as a means of being competitive and then hopefully gaining some competitive advantage over time. So a big part of this is personal selling. Personal selling is certainly that face-to-face process. It's the process of communicating with others and persuading them. So it's an important communication tool in corporations in particular. Um, Personal selling helps you find out what do customers need. Um, and it allows you to tell them how you can address those needs for them, how you can satisfy those needs. And it allows you to follow up and see if they were happy with the process and so forth. Well, we knew a few things about salespeople in general. They have excellent communication skills. In particular, they're careful listeners. So they're not going to be the interrupter. They're going to be the person that listens carefully because they want to discern what are the motives, the values, the needs and wants indeed of that consumer. And so they're good at solving problems. They're persuasive when they write. They're persuasive when they speak. And in particular, they're characterized by great knowledge about the product line, about maybe the corporation itself, if needed. And they are knowledgeable about that customer. So what we find is that the top salespeople in many industries command some high salaries. And it's generally a combination of base salary, promotions and incentives and so forth to come to what you might make. Salespeople make up about 8% of the US workforce. I put in here some examples of high-paying sales jobs. Notice the blue bars are really talking about your average salary. This would be considered your base salary. Quite often, not always, but depending on the context of the type of personal selling you do, but you would have a base salary and then you would receive a commission when you achieved a certain level or a certain threshold. And then the amount over that threshold, you would have some sort of way to determine what your commission is. And so what you can see here is the variety of things, remuneration that you could get as a salesperson. Your average salary in blue, in orange, those commissions added in gray, perhaps a bonus for exceptional production or doing quite well or achieving some goal that the company has set. And then depending on the company, sometimes there is a profit sharing plan, and this goes into your wage base. So take a look here. Most of the blue bars, oh, they're close enough, or we could say they're similar in average salary. So a major gifts officer in a large corporation might make around $70,000 a year as a base salary. But a gifts officer is not someone who was out there going around interacting with clients and visiting territories. That's going to be an internal type of job. So as you can see here, there'll be a bonus there for good work and all of that, and maybe some profit sharing. But the wages themselves, you see in these others, software sales reps, medical sales device sales rep, pharmaceutical sales rep, and so forth, account executives, you can earn pretty sizable commissions and then bonuses on top. And so when you add in just the commissions, you can see with the orange bars that you're getting up into the $100,000 and greater ranges. So the point of this is that people with really good communication skills can become personal salespeople, and you can do quite well in your career. It does matter where you locate, of course. Different cities and regions around the country have different costs of living. For the Bay Area and San Francisco, for example, the cost of living is extremely high, mainly revolving around the fact there is no place to buy for home or to rent. It's simply the market is used up. And so you do find people making a lot of high salaries who happen to be living in RVs in the local city parks and so forth. But in general, not to digress on that, you will find that it costs differently to live in different parts of the country and in these big cities. So you can kind of see there are some minor differences here. We might say that it's about $90,000 to live in DC. That's what you're going to make as a base salary here. The yellow is your base. And then when we get over here and we're in New York City, you might be making $100,000 for doing the same work. But on the other hand, your cost of living would be higher for various reasons. You can see the green bars added into that. They increase your monetary salary tremendously. So those are all our commissions. And then there are a lot of signing bonuses and so forth these days. So you will get some of that. You can see this blue line here. This really speaks to whether or not these cities, the salespeople in general, hit their quotas or not. Quota being what does it have to be your basic threshold, and then after that you start earning these commissions and so forth. And you can see that sometimes really well, a drop at this one point, but for the most part, we do see salespeople are not doing too badly. So what do salespeople do? Well, they're certainly part of a marketing effort, and they're not always considered that. So we need to include this in as part of the marketing mix. They are very valuable for the knowledge they have when you want to produce a marketing analysis. They understand current market trends. They are actually in contact with buyers. They are in contact with consumers who may be patronizing your competitors and so forth. They have a lot of insight into the operations of your industry, the trends, your competitors, consumers, all of it. They would be perfect to offer new product ideas. They could be the first ones to detect an unmet need that possibly the company could satisfy. They would become, over time, very good at analyzing buyer behavior, understanding consumer behavior, understanding how consumers make their purchase decisions, and so forth. They can relay this knowledge all to the marketers. They are excellent communicators, as I've said, and in particular, they can convey your brand message. They can help you. They can help you coordinate the promotional estimates that you're going to make, sales promotion forecasts and so forth, I should say. And so they are going to be that liaison between where the real selling of the company's products and services is going on and the people who are putting together campaigns to increase that revenue stream. So They are the best people to consult on what to do about customer service. Where should we focus our efforts? Where are we doing well? Where are we weak? And so forth. Because they are the first point of contact most of the time for the consumer. In particular, salespeople are the first point of contact with other companies. And there's a tremendous amount of B2B commerce out there. So when you're looking for advice, go to the salespeople. They have some of the best experience and some of the best knowledge and skills. They are going to help you fine tune your CRM and make sure that your customer relationship management is top notch and that you haven't overlooked something vital. Well, we have three types of personal selling: order taking, creative selling, and supportive communications that make it all work. Let's talk about order taking first. Now, order taking is simply that. It's a practice, a process. You accept orders, you process customer information. It's for a product that you know that they're calling about. The number of products and types, you will know about them. It will be limited in scope depending on your job description and what the company makes and provides. Or it could be that you are scheduling, making appointments, and providing that service for an installation or delivery or whatever it might be for a customer purchase. It is the least involved type of personal selling. It is something that is a basic standard job that we might see a basic job description of duties of answers the phone, processes order, brings orders off the website, makes appointments for customers. So in this sort of thing, it could be in written form. You may do something online. You may use the telephone. You're going to answer the telephone occasionally. You're going to communicate with new or existing customers. You are going to be expected to be extremely polite and courteous. You are a point of first contact between yourself as a company, as a representative of the company, and the public. And so certainly a careless approach to being courteous, to being a friendly voice is going to damage the brand reputation. So even in a job like this, it's significant because of the point of contact part of it. And it's important that people really are conscious that they need to be as accommodating as possible to the public and to their potential customers. It does not usually mean in this particular thing of order taking written online or on the phone like this, that you have to process a large amount of information. Mostly you do not, and you don't have to know large amounts of technical information. You will possibly have to know certain amounts, but it is, again, the most difficult, the less challenging of all types of personal selling. Here's the two types of order taking. You'll either be an inside order taker or an outside order taker. It's fairly simple, but there are some basic differences here. An inside order taker would include cash registers in a retail operation. Now think about it. They're taking a customer's order. They're physically processing it. They're not writing it down, but they are using equipment or operating equipment that is scanning it, identifying it, charging the price, building a ticker tape record, a receipt of the transaction and so forth. So they're taking an order and then they're following through with the final transaction, quite often, of the payment. It could also be that an indoor order taker, another type would be someone who sits at a desk in a call center with a lot of other employees who are answering the telephone and providing information and taking orders and scheduling and so forth. Now, the outside order taker is someone that could be expected to travel around to different territories or call on local clients. If you're a warehouser or a distributor or wholesaler of some type, you could call on your business clients. You could visit them in their locations. So you would be outside, moving around. And generally, outside order takers are concerned with other members of the trade channel that you work with. And so they will be concerned with making sure that those clients, their inventory needs are taken care of. So inventory replenishment would be a duty. And sometimes this also involves taking care of the catalog fulfillment order system in some way. We also have creative selling. Now, creative selling is where you're assisting and persuading people. They're looking at you as a salesperson to be the expert. And so this will be for a specialty good, for something that's more expensive, for something that's more complex, or something that's very new, or some new technology. Customers do rely heavily on salespeople. And you really would hope that as a salesperson, you could build some immediate sort of trust or rapport with other people. If you can accomplish that, you will find that consumers in general will trust you. They will rely heavily for the information you're giving them, the advice, to make decisions about that, technical matters, installation and service, those sorts of things. To engage in creative selling means that you need a high level of expertise, that you have to be prepared, and you have to be able to work comfortably with other people. So this happens in a lot of different contexts. Retail stores, any place that sells higher priced items or specialty goods, sometimes require that informed and well-trained sales staff. And what you will find is that many manufacturers or producers of services will provide training for you, and they will work with you to make sure that their proper message goes out the way they want it, with the right factors emphasized and all of that. So there will be some support. So this will happen in retail stores. It will also be used certainly in a presentation to a business client, or when you're selling something like a large industrial installation for something like an airport or a port, or some huge network system for a tech company, or just a corporation that needs a network set up for them. So those sorts of things are where you would certainly use some creative selling. Also, we find that the services provided by industries like insurance agents, stockbrokers, media representatives, real estate, and so forth, that demands a certain amount of creative selling as well, because you also are often working with the B2B community. So here's our three types of creative selling: team selling, seminar selling, and system selling. Team selling, of course, an effort by more than one person. You may have a couple of people that call on the clients, or it might be that you put together a bunch of material as a team, and one person is the liaison. Generally, as you can see, here's some specialty goods: communications equipment, computer installations, specialized manufacturing equipment that requires some hands-on training, and so forth. You may have a team of a few of individuals come with different expertise, or maybe to coach different levels of management in the company. You may have one team of one or two people go in and talk to people that need the technical details, and you may have another person that goes in and talks to the middle manager they report to. So there will be different combinations. Now, seminar selling is probably the one where you're not going to find very much pressure to close the sale or to produce a lot of sales out of that particular moment. It could have that, but generally, this is where you get a lot of potential customers, consumers together. You're educating and informing them. You're providing information about products or services. It's designed to reach groups of people rather than individual customers. And so it doesn't have that same pressure feel for the salespeople to close the sale as we might find with some of these other types of personal selling I've been talking about. Now, system selling is where we really talk about those large dollar items, more complex sorts of products and services. So system selling, you're selling an interrelated set of components. They'll fulfill many needs for a consumer in a product or a service area quite often. Say you need a communications network. Well, think of all the things that might include: a database, individual work terminals, all the physical cabling and all the things that go with that if it's needed, the servers and all of that stuff, the programming that goes with it, the training, and so forth. And it might be in a variety of locations. So generally, bigger items focusing on larger industrial customers, government buyers. A lot of times, the buyers are looking for a one source sort of stop where they can get several needs taken care of all at once. So you find that these are large companies with pretty large capabilities, They provide a wider range of products. They're related products like communication and technical products of different types, and the services, installation, repair, maintenance, all of that sort of stuff. There is a lot of convenience to be had in one source buying like this. And so big companies really want to reduce the number of players that they have to deal with, of course, if they're getting good value. And it's really always about the value. So what are some good examples? Well, they're really the things I've mentioned: infrastructure projects, ports, airports, communication systems, networks of all types, those sorts of things. Specialized manufacturing equipment in particular, where you have software and consoles running a whole complex of continuous motion sorts of activities and processes. That would all fall into system selling. Now, the other category here is supportive communications. This is really all the support stuff that we do. We could call it overhead a little bit, some of these things. But this is not about generating a sale, engaging the customer so much as it is in providing the support to get it done. So the focus is providing the information, offering the services, creating goodwill. And there are a lot of ways to do that that don't necessarily mean that you always interact with the customer. We do have a couple of salespeople that come into the picture here: the missionary salesperson and the detail salesperson. Now, the missionary salesperson, I think they're called that because they're going out, they're calling on accounts and so forth. They're asking their customers and clients, how happy are you? Where could we do better? And so forth. Finding out, do you need something else? How can we improve? What else can we do for you? The detail salesperson is someone that's going to be around when you're introducing a new product, a new feature, a benefit. They're going to provide information and so forth. They're not really looking for the sale. They're looking to provide communicate important information that may lead to a sale. So again, supportive communications. The objectives of personal selling overall are just like any business process. Domestically or internationally, we want to create a competitive advantage for ourselves. If we can do it with personal selling, it certainly would contribute to the overall effort of being successful and particularly being efficient in accomplishing our goals. So salespeople are key generally in efforts and industries where you do need those people to interact with the public, with your clients and so forth. They will gain experience and intuition over time because they are required to quickly make decisions, quickly determine and understand the needs of a buyer. You don't want to lose to the competition. You've got to be fast, smart, and knowledgeable. So they've got to be able to talk about the attributes, benefits, and features, what products and services can actually do for the clients. They've got to talk in functional terms, technical details. They've got to talk in emotional terms that will appeal to people's values, person's values, and so forth. They want to mention the self-expressive values of status and social standing that might accompany it. And so they have to be able to articulate this. So again, salespeople can help you create a competitive advantage just by their competency. And they're going to know all the details about the value proposition that you're trying to convey to the consumer. And consumers are going to look at salespeople again like they're the expert. So they're going to know all the details of delivery. They're not going to have to get back to you with that. No, they're going to know those details. They're going to know what it costs for the installation, who's coming, well, how large the crew is, how long it takes them to make an appointment. They're going to tell you all the details of repair services that are offered and what's not offered and what warranties cover and what they don't cover and what service contracts cover and what they don't. And then along the way, salespeople will help you to differentiate because they help you understand your market better. So one thing to remember here is never use hard selling. Never use aggressive tactics with people, communication tactics that are hard sells, aggressive, intimidating, maybe misrepresentative, and so forth. Never do that. Do the opposite. Be a good listener. Try and understand who that person is, what they need and want, so you can fix it for them. So tailor your message to each individual client and company, and you'll have the most success. So you want to manage these relationships that you create with your salespeople. Uh, and this really is going to be one of the job duties. It's hard to articulate that, but salespeople will be able to determine what is needed by their clients and consumers and so forth. So here's the general things that salespeople are going to be talking about and emphasizing and focusing on when they talk to their clients. The product superiority, the service superiority, the price superiority. Now, if any of these doesn't exist, then they will not talk about it too much. They will talk about what you're strong in. Of course, like any SWOT analysis tells us, we play up our strengths, we minimize weaknesses, but where you are strong, you talk about it at length. And you talk about how great your company is and all the wonderful things you've done, but you don't lead with that. You don't make new contacts with that information. You always start by saying, we can help you solve your wants and needs. They can find out about you as you tell them how great and competent you are over time, how that you're the best one to work with people, how you're going to answer their every question, how you're going to call them back within 24 hours. You tell them all of these things. This is what, good salespeople do. They're building trust. And these trusting relationships have mutual benefit and they do work for both people. So there's certainly context. Today's context for selling requires us to use sophisticated marketing techniques like promotional campaigns where the same message is out in many different media channels. It requires our salespeople to be very focused, to be very knowledgeable and so forth, to be flexible and able to respond quickly. And it takes a recognition that today's context, particularly with consumers, is consumers, business to business or business to consumer, are more demanding than they've ever been. Telemarketing does work. It is one of the tools for personal selling, but it's controversial. And you have to know how far to take it, how to handle it with the least negativity and so forth. But telemarketing can help you in the areas of callbacks with existing customers and things like that. You'll find that just like most industries, Salesforce automation is there. It does help you reduce the number of clerical staff and administrative staff you need and so forth. You're using software to integrate your computer networks to handle your communication and technological needs. You're using the internet, certainly. And most importantly, you're using database technology to gather, analyze, and act on information about customers and the market, about your products and so forth. And you're using it to build your CRM efforts and so forth. So that is the personal context for selling today. It's really focused on the changes and increases and improvements in technology and communications. Now, how do we manage all that? We manage it just like we manage everything else, domestically or international. We do the same things, right? So we make sure that someone is in charge of the personal selling effort. There's a middle manager or whatever our company, our particular hierarchy of authority requires. And the sales management top people are going to be in charge of evaluating the needs of their sales force, of setting those objectives, handling the budget, structuring and hiring the pay compensation and so forth for the sales force. They've got to understand the best practices in their industry. What are the payment thresholds, salaries, how are commissions figured, what makes the most sense for what we could do? Can we do that or not do that? The feasibility and so forth, right? And then it has to be close communications with human resource management so you get the right kind of people. It takes a certain personality to be a really successful top salesperson. And then you have to be aware that you've got to provide training. And then your sales force is just like any other worker in your company. You have to motivate them, work with them, engage with them. And you have to evaluate and give them assessments just like you would any other employee. You can do a couple of different types of analyses that will help you get it right in hiring your sales force, manage them, and so forth. So the external situation analysis includes things you would guess would be in there. understanding, identifying those trends in the industry, technology and different product categories that affect you. How's the economy doing? What are buyers thinking? Has anything changed? Do I really understand my mindset of my target consumers? Is my promotional brand campaign, is it getting into the minds of consumers? And if it is it getting the message we want in there? And then you look internally. It's a SWOT analysis, basically. I can't think of a better tool that's ever been created for a corporation or company. Look at your strengths, your weaknesses, specifically applied to the sales force and your selling efforts. Be brutally honest. And don't forget the opportunities and threats part either. Evaluate the performance of your sales force and look at the overall mix so that accountability is fair and that they do get credit for the things that they accomplish. Use them for their knowledge to help your overall marketing campaign. So make sure that they're part of your overall support activities, particularly when you're thinking of a new feature or benefit or a complete new product for your line. Now, there's a lot of ways to figure out how you're doing and measuring sales and so forth. You could do total sales, of course, and you could make forecasts based on historical information measured against the current quarter or whatever time period you want to look at. You could do it by location, geographic territory. You could take a look at your revenues from different product categories. You could break it down even further into individual products. And there are many ways to look and evaluate whether you're doing well or not. At the same time, you could also do the same thing with your sales force, your individual salespeople. Generally, salespeople have quotas. That's that minimum threshold that the company expects them to meet. That ensures them their basic salary, and then compensation above that point kicks in as commission and so forth. We'll take a look at that and be realistic and reasonable with your assessment of how things are going. We've got historical data, hopefully. If not, you can compare them to other historical data of other salespeople in similar situations. You have to make a budget. Each department in a company has to have a budget. It's got to predict expenses and so forth and have enough money to do that. And the number one item, certainly in most cases, particularly you're talking about salespeople. So you've got to have salaries and benefits. And you're going to pay them above that with incentive programs, the bonuses and things that you give out. It does cost your HR department time, energy to recruit. It costs time to train people and energy. You pay for travel. The samples you give out in stores as part of promotional campaign or part of personal selling, catalogs, samples, product brochures, gift cards, all those sorts of promotional materials are an expense. All that stuff needs to be accounted for, and you've got to budget for it. This is no different than managing any department in any business, so marketing is no different. All your activities are going to produce some sort of expense. The best method, really, and what most companies are doing, regardless of whether it's marketing or making a product or providing a service for people, you want to say, how much did I spend on all the activities and processes to get it done, and how much did I take in? It's a rational and reasonable approach. It's ROI, return on investment. How much did I invest? How much came back in? But don't lose sight of all those other perspectives, smaller slices of truth to let you know how well you're doing. Once you start actively working with the budgets, you'll realize what you can accomplish, what you can't. But budgets do set the framework for activities, and we have to have them because we need those sorts of frameworks to know how to proceed. So you have to be careful, but certainly you don't want to underestimate expenses. And then you want to do reasonable forecasts for what you think is going to be the balancing revenue. Now, finally, the Salesforce structure depends really on your industry, the products or services that you're offering. So quite often we see companies that the Salesforce is structured right around the product line. It just makes sense. It's reasonable. When things become more technically complex, it's certainly easy to assign specific salespeople to specific products or an overall product line that may be very much related. Um, but we could also structure our sales force to respond to the type of customers we have also. If we deal in many products, and there are a variety of sort of standard products that aren't real complex or not necessarily really expensive, then we might say, well, are we dealing with wholesalers, or are we dealing all primarily with retailers? Or are we primarily, are our customers B2B also with other industry groups? Are our products or services giant installations, systems, or are they a smaller variety that would ebb and flow? So we could structure our sales force that way. Certainly, these are our trade channel salespeople and so forth. And we could do it by geographic territory. And certainly within that geographic territory, we could structure this way as well. So, but if you're just assigned a geographic territory with many companies, what we find is that they sell all your products and services. So if you have standardized items, things that are all very similar, related items in a product line, then certainly structuring by geographic territory is really easy and quite reasonable. Okay, folks, that's what I wanted to talk about this time. I'll talk to you again soon.